I didn't start van life with a dream rig or some viral build. I began on a cold, wet night in the middle of Ventura. I bought the van that afternoon, and everything felt heavier than expected. The rain was relentless, that soft kind that just doesn't stop. The windows fogged up, the air inside felt damp, almost sticky. I didn't even have a chance to install the ventilation yet. I was scared to park in a new place, so I pulled up under a flickering yellow streetlight near my old apartment, the one I just moved out of. No insulation, no heater, just me in a hoodie trying to convince myself that this was a good idea. Then I noticed the ants, crawling across the dashboard like they'd been waiting for me to move in. The rain had driven them inside. I remember sitting there with the engine off, hands on the steering wheel, just listening. To the sound of the rain, to the buzz of the light. And I wondered to myself, what the have I just gotten myself into? That was 2 years ago. Since then, I've made more mistakes than I can count. Some expensive, others just uncomfortable. But every single one taught me something worth knowing. And if I could speak to that version of myself, to the guy freezing in the hoodie pretending not to be overwhelmed, this is what I'd say. Not to scare him off, not to hand him some checklist, just to offer a little guidance, a little light in the fog. Because if you can learn from what I got wrong, you might start this journey with a little more clarity and a little bit more peace than I did. Let's get started. I waited too long to get the van. Back then, I was still in the Navy, working full-time, living in a rented apartment, saving what I could. Life was comfortable enough, structured, predictable, but every day I felt a little more disconnected from it. I'd get off shift, drive home through traffic, unlock my door, and just sit there, staring at the walls, thinking about roads I had not taken yet. I had this idea that one day, maybe once I'd everything figured out, I'd get a van and live on the road. But I kept putting it off. At night, I'd scroll Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace on my phone, find a few vans, imagine what it would feel like. Then I'd close the tab, tell myself it wasn't the right time. I convinced myself that I needed to do more research, wait for the right deal. Maybe something better would show up next week. But the truth is, I was scared. Scared of choosing the wrong rig, scared of getting ripped off, scared that I'd regret the decision and be stuck with something that I couldn't afford to fix. So I waited. I paid rent every month, put in the hours, cooked in the same kitchen, slept in the same bed. But the whole time, I knew that I was living in a space that no longer felt like mine. I could have started learning sooner if I had just gotten something, even a cheap no-frills cargo van with a mattress in the back. And more than that, I could have started becoming the person that I kept imagining. The van didn't have to be perfect, it just had to be enough to get me moving. Because clarity doesn't always come from sitting still. Sometimes it comes from motion, from trying new things, from living in the discomfort and figuring it out as you go. And the longer you wait, the more that it costs you. Not just in money, but in experience, in momentum, and in time you won't get back. Looking back, I wish I had let go of my fears sooner. I wish I had trusted my vision a little more, and believed that starting small, messy, and uncertain was okay. So if you're in that place right now, scrolling listings, replaying the same decision in your head over and over again, just give it a try. Rent a van for a weekend. Go sleep next to a trailhead. Cook a meal in the back. See how it feels. You don't have to commit to it forever, but you do have to start somewhere. And trust me, once you're in motion, a lot of the things that felt confusing start to make a lot more sense. When I finally decided to commit fully to van life, I rushed. I stayed in Los Angeles to shop for a van, mainly because it felt familiar. But LA was the worst place that I could have looked. Everything was overpriced, overbuilt, overhyped. I purchased a 2010 V8 Chevy Express with 150,000 miles on it for $12K. Basic layout, no fancy features. And I still paid more than I should have. The wild thing is, that was considered a good deal in LA. Listings would say stealth build or converted camper van. And that label alone would add thousands, even if it was just plywood and a roof vent. I remember thinking, at least it's close. I can test drive it, look at the mechanics, and I can have it home by tonight. But that convenience came with a cost. If I just looked a little further away, states like Arizona, Missouri, or even a few states over, I could have found something cheaper, cleaner, probably with fewer miles. A one-way flight, a cross-country drive back, same van, less money. Don't get me wrong, my van turned out great. I love it. It served me well. It's solid, reliable. I've built so much of my life inside it, but I paid more than needed, simply because I was shopping in the wrong place. I had spent so long hesitating to start. Once I finally decided, I didn't want to wait another second. I went from too much hesitation to not having enough patience. And I get it, when you finally make that decision to take the leap, you want to move. But sometimes the smartest choice isn't buying the van. It's buying the plane ticket, because where you shop matters just as much as what you buy. After I got the van, I didn't think much about window coverings. I figured I could just park in the shade, maybe crack a window at night, maybe hang a towel or two if I wanted privacy. That felt like enough at the time. But once summer hit, I started to notice a problem. I couldn't always find shade when I needed it. The mornings were rough. I'd wake up earlier than I wanted to, sunlight pouring in from every window. The van would heat up fast. My sleep quality felt light and interrupted. I'd start my day already tired, and I didn't really feel like I had a space to myself. I'd lay there in the mornings, hearing people walk by. Sometimes they'd glance in. It wasn't hostile, but it felt exposed. I knew I needed to fix it. The day I added insulated window covers, the difference was immediate. It stayed darker longer. The van stayed cooler, and I felt more relaxed, like I finally had real walls between me and the outside world. It turned the van from a temporary shelter to something that felt like home. It's not the flashiest upgrade, but it's easily one of the most important, especially if you plan on spending a lot of time in the van. With window covers, you sleep better, you feel more private, and your mornings start with a whole lot more peace. In the beginning, I stuck to what I knew. I parked close to my old apartment. Same neighborhood, same streets, even the identical grocery store parking lots. It felt safe and familiar, but it also felt limiting. I didn't realize I had options. I wasn't aware that I could legally camp on national forest land for free for up to 14 days at a time. No neighbors, no noise, just peace. When I finally discovered this, it changed everything. I remember my first night camping in the forest. I stepped out of the van and looked around, and there was no one in sight. I had the whole place to myself. The air smelled like pine. A fire ring had been built before me. Birds were chirping, and the silence of nature was just incredible. It struck me there. This is why I wanted the van in the first place. Not to park in the same zip code I had just moved out of, but to be out here. That realization opened up a whole new kind of van life. One where I didn't have to hide or feel like I was constantly trespassing, having to look over my shoulder and worry if I was doing something wrong. There's something freeing about knowing where you're allowed to be. It's not just about parking, it's about finding peace. So if you're just getting started, learn the rules. Download Gaia GPS or All Trails. Look for the least populated trails out there. Check the elevation, distance from town, and how busy the route usually is. Those quieter spots make all the difference. If you want more information, I've created 2 full videos about parking. How to find legal spots, stay low key, and what I'd wish I'd known sooner. I'll link both of them in the description below. Even a little research can lead to a different kind of freedom. You might be closer to it than you think. The first time I really felt the cold in the van was during a California winter. I had insulation in the walls, which helped a lot, and I could stay warm in bed with my hammock gear down quilts. But the moment I had to get up, to cook, move around, grab something from a bin, it was freezing. I could see my breath, condensation on the windows. And that feeling of peeling the covers off when it's 40 degrees inside the van, it hits hard. I managed to get through the nights, and at least I was comfortable while still in my bed. I didn't install a heater until I moved to Colorado, and looking back, I should have done it sooner. Being able to actually live in the space, sit up, cook, stretch, work, without needing gloves just to make coffee, that made a big difference. The Mr. Heater that I got changed everything for me. Mentally, waking up and not dreading the cold made van life feel less like something to endure and more like a place to be. You don't need a full diesel heater set up on day 1, but having some kind of safe heat source, even a small one, makes a huge difference. Because it's not just about how you sleep, it's about how you live when you're awake. I never thought I needed to worry about bugs. I kept my space clean, never left food out. But one rainy season in California, the ants came anyway. It had been pouring non-stop for days. Everything was soaked, and apparently my van looked like a warm and dry place to hide. One evening, I found a whole line of ants just crawling across the dashboard. Not near my food or anything, just moving in. To get rid of them, it took 3 days. A complete clean out and an entire box of ant traps. I pulled up the floor mat, vacuumed every corner, found tiny entry points that I didn't even know existed. It wasn't just frustrating, it felt invasive, like I had lost control of my space. Now I seal everything. Trash gets locked down, dry goods go into bins, and every 6 months or so, I spray the threshold of all the doors with the preventative bug spray. It's just something that I picked up at Home Depot. It's made a huge difference. Since I started doing that, I haven't had any more issues. Once bugs get in, they're hard to get out. This isn't the kind of mistake that hits you right away, but when it does, it hits all at once. So if you're just getting started, don't wait. Bug-proof your setup early, because when the rain comes, you're not the only one looking for shelter. When I started living in my van, I didn't realize how challenging it would be to not have a constant address. I hadn't given much thought to mail. I assumed I could just check in with family and forward a few items every now and then. However, that approach only worked briefly before it all fell apart. Initially, I used P.O. boxes and borrowed friends' addresses, which worked to some extent. But over time, essential items like vehicle registration renewals, health insurance notices, and tax documents began to slip through the cracks. Not everything could be handled online. In some documents, like IDs, passports, and legal forms, still require a physical residential address. Eventually, I set up a mail forwarding service, and while it's not perfect, it's been extremely beneficial. Additionally, I have one trusted contact that can receive anything urgent if I'm off the grid. That little bit of planning makes a significant difference. Van life can feel liberating, but it quickly becomes stressful when something official needs to reach you. Set up a system of some kind, even if it's simple. You'll be grateful for it later. Alright, let's talk about bathrooms. When I first started living on the road, I relied on public restrooms, places like Planet Fitness, trailheads, and gas stations. This worked well most of the time, until it didn't. I remember one particular night when it started pouring at 2 a.m. I was parked off a forest road, miles away from any civilization. And suddenly, walking to a trailhead bathroom was not an option. That's when I realized I needed a backup plan. Even if you rarely use it, having some sort of basic bathroom setup is invaluable. At a minimum, I keep a sealed, leak-proof pee jug in the van. This is it, my discreet pee jug. I'll link this one in the description below. It's easy to clean, super discreet, doesn't leak, and it saves me from those moments when holding it just isn't realistic. There are more complete setups available as well, like cassette toilets, folding units, and even composting toilets if you want to go all out. Personally, I've never needed more than a jug for emergencies, but I have had nights when I've thought, yeah, a cassette toilet would be nice right now. You don't need a complete bathroom setup to live on the road, but you do need a plan, because when you really need it, you'll be glad that you have it. Lighting probably isn't the first thing that you think about, but it matters more than you'd expect. In the beginning, I didn't have much. A flashlight, a couple battery-powered lanterns, maybe my phone screen if I really needed it. But over time, I realized something. How your space is lit affects how you feel and how you operate inside it. I eventually added LED strip lights that plug right into my Jackery. They pull barely any power and completely change the space. The light reflects off my metal ceiling, filling the van with a soft, even glow. I can see everything now. It's easy to cook, organize gear, or unwind. No harsh shadows, no weird pockets of darkness. I also keep 2 backup headlamps in the van. They come with me when I go camping in the mountains, but I also use them in the van just in case something goes wrong, or if I need to find something quick. Because when the power dies, or if a light goes out, fumbling around in the dark gets old really fast. Good lighting helps you enjoy your build. It makes your night smoother so you're not stumbling around trying to find your other sock with your phone light. You don't need anything fancy, just something that works every time you turn it on. Some places you go, you won't have service. No radar, no bars, no alerts. Just the sound of the wind through the trees and the silence that exists when you're hours away from town. When I first started, I didn't think much about it. I figured I could always check my phone. But that changes the first time you're parked deep in a forest, parked in the middle of nowhere, and something feels off. The wind starts to pick up, the clouds move faster than they should, the light shifts, and you realize you're out here, entirely alone. No signal, no warnings. Just you, your van, and whatever might be moving in. The last thing that you want is to be parked for the night, asleep and vulnerable, and wake up to a flash flood, a wildfire, or a tornado warning, with no way of knowing it was coming. That's when I knew I needed something better. I first learned this while ultralight backpacking. Being off-grid means thinking ahead. Since then, I've kept this emergency weather radio in the van. It's small, it doesn't need anything else other than an AM signal, and it gives me the kind of heads up that I didn't even realize that I needed. Tornado risk, flash floods, wildfire alerts, even just knowing when a thunderstorm is rolling in. One alert can shift your plan, change your timing, or give you just enough notice to move. You don't need to live in fear, but when you're out here, far from town, far from signal, you want to know what's coming. That's not paranoia, that's just being prepared. These were my first lessons, not from a manual, not from a checklist, but from living it one mistake at a time. Some were inconvenient, others cost me more than I expected, but each one that I made helped me shape a version of van life that fits me better. Not perfect, not polished, but real. If you're just getting started, I hope that this gave you something to take with you. You'll find your own rhythm out there, and you'll probably make your own set of mistakes. But maybe with a bit of foresight and planning, you'll hit fewer bumps along the way, and you'll spend more time enjoying your journey instead of constantly fixing the foundation. Now I want to hear from you. If you've made mistakes of your own, or if you're unsure about something coming up, let me know down in the comments below. I'll engage with you there. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel for more van life, outdoor, and travel content. And if this helped you in some way, check out this next video right here. It covers common van life myths that get repeated online, and the reality of what it's actually like out here. I'll see you over there.